After our house burned down with everything we owned inside, I posted in our family group chat asking for help. My sister replied with photos from her new kitchen renovation. Nobody offered a place to stay. 3 weeks later, sleeping in a hotel room we couldn't afford, I got 47 missed calls from my mom. "Answer the phone," her text said. "Your father's in the hospital." I remember the exact moment I smelled the smoke. It was 3:17 a.m. on a Tuesday in March. I woke up thinking our neighbor was having a barbecue, which made no sense at that hour. Then I heard the crackling sound coming from downstairs, and my blood went cold. My wife Sarah was already sitting up, her hand on my arm. "Do you smell that?" she whispered. We had maybe 2 minutes. 2 minutes to grab our 6-month-old son Marcus from his crib, throw on clothes, and get out before the smoke got too thick to see. I grabbed my wallet and phone from the nightstand. Sarah grabbed the diaper bag. That was it. Everything else we owned, photo albums, Marcus's baby book, my grandfather's watch, Sarah's wedding dress, 15 years of building a home together, gone. We stood on the sidewalk in our pajamas holding our baby while our entire life went up in flames. The fire department said it started in the electrical panel in the basement. Faulty wiring in a house built in 1962. Insurance would cover some of it, but not everything. Not the immediate crisis of having nowhere to sleep, nothing to wear, no car seats, no formula, no diapers. The flames were so intense that by the time the fire trucks arrived, the roof had already collapsed. I watched 15 years of memories turn to ash in less than an hour. The Christmas ornaments Sarah and I had collected from every vacation, the rocking chair where I'd fed Marcus his first bottles, the photo wall documenting our entire relationship from college sweethearts to new parents. The Red Cross put us up in a hotel for 3 nights. After that, we were on our own. That's when I sent the message to our family group chat. 23 people in total. Parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins. People I'd helped move, loaned money to, been there for through divorces and job losses and medical scares. I kept it simple. Our house burned down early this morning. We're all safe, but we lost everything. Staying at the Comfort Inn on Route 9 for now. Any help would be appreciated. I stared at my phone screen, expecting it to explode with responses, with offers to help, places to stay, people asking what we needed most urgently. These were people who knew us, who knew we had a baby, who understood what lost everything meant. The first response came from my sister Jessica. 3 photos, her newly renovated kitchen with granite countertops and stainless steel appliances. The caption read, "Finally finished. Can't wait to host Thanksgiving this year. Tab Blessed Life Kitchen Goals." I blinked at the screen, thinking maybe she hadn't seen my message yet. Maybe the photos were scheduled to post automatically. But no, the timestamp showed she'd posted them 12 minutes after I sent my message about the fire. Nobody else responded for hours. Not my parents, not my brother Mike, not Uncle Tommy, who I'd co-signed a loan for when his credit was shot. Not cousin Rachel, who stayed in our guest room for 2 months when she was getting divorced. Not Aunt Linda, who I'd driven to chemotherapy appointments for 6 months when she had breast cancer. By evening, still nothing. Not a single person had acknowledged that their family members were homeless with a baby. I started scrolling through social media, thinking maybe people were just busy and hadn't seen the group chat. But there they were, posting about their normal lives. Jessica sharing workout videos, Mike posting memes about his favorite TV show, cousin Rachel checking in at a fancy restaurant downtown. They'd seen the message, they just didn't care enough to respond. The hotel was $89 a night. Our savings account had maybe $800 in it after we just paid for Marcus's 6-month checkup and a car repair the week before. Insurance claims take weeks to process. Sarah's maternity leave meant we were already tight on money, and now we had to replace literally everything while paying for a hotel room. The first night in the hotel, Marcus wouldn't stop crying. He could sense something was wrong, and the unfamiliar environment had him completely unsettled. Sarah and I took turns walking him around the small room, trying to calm him down while being mindful that other guests were trying to sleep. At 2 a.m., exhausted and overwhelmed, Sarah broke down crying. "What are we going to do?" she sobbed. "We have nothing. No clothes, no baby gear, no place to live. How do we start over from zero?" I held her and Marcus both, trying to project confidence I didn't feel. "We'll figure it out," I said. "The insurance will help, and family will step up once they process what happened." I was wrong about the family part. I called my mom directly the next morning. She answered on the 4th ring, sounding distracted. "Oh, honey, I saw your message," she said. "That's just terrible." "How did it happen?" I explained about the electrical fire, about having nothing left, about needing help. "Well, you know we'd love to help," she said, "but we just don't have the space. Your father's got his model train set up in the spare room, and you know how he gets about moving those tracks." My parents live in a 4-bedroom house. The spare room was one of 4 bedrooms they weren't using for anything important. My father's model train collection took up maybe a quarter of that room. "Mom, we have a 6-month-old baby. We're sleeping in a hotel we can't afford." "I know, sweetie, But hotels have cribs, don't they? And you've got insurance. This will all work out. Your father's trains are really delicate, and he spent so much time getting everything just right. She changed the subject to her book club before hanging up. Model trains were more important than their homeless grandson. I tried my brother next. Mike lived alone in a 3-bedroom house he'd bought with money I'd helped him scrape together for the down payment 2 years earlier. His response was even worse. "Dude, that sucks," he said. "But I've got this work situation right now, and having a baby crying at night would really mess with my sleep schedule. You understand?" His work situation was a remote IT job where he basically played video games half the day. I knew because I'd helped him get the position through a connection at my company. "Mike, we're homeless. We're sleeping in a hotel with our infant son." "Yeah, but it's temporary, right? Insurance will kick in soon. And honestly, hotels are probably more comfortable than my guest room anyway. The bed in there is pretty old." I hung up before I said something I'd regret. One by one, I called every family member who could reasonably help. Everyone had an excuse. The house was too small. They were traveling. They had their own problems. It wasn't a good time. Maybe in a few weeks when things settled down. Uncle Tommy, who I'd personally loaned $3,000 to 6 months earlier when his truck broke down, told me he was cash poor right now. He was planning a fishing trip to Alaska and couldn't spare any money for a family emergency. Cousin Rachel said she was still recovering emotionally from her divorce and couldn't handle the stress of house guests. This was the same Rachel who had sobbed on my shoulder for hours when her ex-husband left, who I'd helped find a lawyer, who I'd taken care of when she had nowhere else to go. Aunt Linda, who I'd driven to dozens of medical appointments during her cancer treatment, said her immune system was still compromised and she couldn't risk exposure to a baby who might be carrying germs. My sister Jessica never even returned my call. She was too busy posting photos of her kitchen renovation on every social media platform she could find. By the end of the first week, we burned through half our savings on hotel bills. Marcus was cranky from sleeping in a strange place. Sarah was crying from stress and exhaustion, and I felt like I was drowning. The hotel room had a mini fridge and a microwave, so we were living on convenience store food and takeout we couldn't afford. I was doing loads of laundry in the hotel's coin-operated machines, washing the same 3 outfits we'd managed to buy at Walmart with what little money we had left. Every day, I called the insurance company. Every day, they told me the claim was processing and asked for more documentation. Photos of items we'd lost, receipts for things we'd bought years ago, proof of ownership for belongings that no longer existed. Sarah tried to go back to work early, but she was still technically on maternity leave, and her employer said they needed time to adjust her schedule. Meanwhile, her replacement was already in place, and bringing Sarah back early would create complications. I was using all my vacation time to deal with the insurance claim and look for temporary housing. My boss was understanding, but made it clear this couldn't go on indefinitely. That's when Sarah's coworker Amanda stepped in. Amanda barely knew us. She'd met me maybe 3 times at office parties. But when she heard about the fire from Sarah, she showed up at the hotel with bags of baby clothes, formula, diapers, and a car seat she'd bought new from Target. "My guest room is yours for as long as you need it," she said simply. "I've got a crib in storage from when my sister used to visit with her kids. It's not much, but it's clean and safe." A virtual stranger was offering us more help than our entire extended family combined. "We can't accept that," Sarah said, crying. "You barely know us." "I know enough," Amanda replied. "I know you're good people going through something terrible. I know you have a baby who needs a stable place to sleep. And I know I have a spare room that's just sitting empty. It's not charity. It's what neighbors do for each other." We moved in with Amanda that night. She refused to take any money for utilities or groceries. When we insisted on paying something, she said, "Save your money. You'll need it to get back on your feet." Her house was small but comfortable. She'd cleared out the guest room and set up the crib for Marcus. She'd stocked the bathroom with toiletries and put fresh flowers on the dresser. There were towels laid out with a note that said, "Welcome home." Living in Amanda's house, I started to rebuild our lives piece by piece. I spent hours on the phone with insurance adjusters, contractors, and banks. Sarah went back to work because we needed the income and couldn't afford to extend her leave any longer. Amanda watched Marcus during the day like he was her own nephew. She would send me photos throughout the day. Marcus napping in the afternoon sun, giggling at her cat, trying to eat everything he could get his hands on. She never made it seem like a burden or an inconvenience. She genuinely enjoyed spending time with him. Meanwhile, my family continued their lives as if nothing had happened. Jessica posted daily updates about her kitchen, her meal prep, her yoga classes. Mike shared memes and gaming videos. My parents checked in once a week with vague questions like, "How are you holding up?" but never offered concrete help. The silence was deafening. In a family group chat that used to buzz with activity, birthday reminders, holiday plans, shared photos, random conversations, my crisis had created a dead zone. People were posting around it like it didn't exist. 2 weeks into staying at Amanda's house, I tried one more time. I sent a message to the family group asking if anyone had baby clothes Marcus could borrow. He was growing fast, and we were down to our last few clean outfits. Nobody responded. 3 hours later, Jessica posted a photo of her shopping bags from a high-end children's boutique. "Spoiling my friend's new baby," she captioned it. "Love finding the perfect outfits for little ones." She was buying expensive baby clothes for a friend's child, while her own nephew was wearing the same outfit 3 days in a row. That night, I sat in Amanda's backyard while Marcus slept, staring at my phone and feeling something fundamental shift inside me. It wasn't anger anymore. It was clarity. These people didn't see me as family. They saw me as a resource, someone who showed up when they needed help, but who they could ignore when the tables were turned. I thought about all the times I dropped everything to help them. Driving 4 hours to help Mike move when his lease ended. Co-signing Uncle Tommy's truck loan when nobody else would. Taking care of Aunt Linda during her chemo treatments. Hosting Rachel for 2 months during her divorce. I'd always thought that was what family did. You showed up for each other, no questions asked. But apparently it was what I did for them, not what they did for me. 3 weeks into staying at Amanda's house, I woke up to my phone buzzing frantically. 47 missed calls, mostly from my mom. The last text from her said, "Answer the phone. Your father's in the hospital." I called back immediately, my heart racing despite everything. "Where have you been?" she demanded. "I've been trying to reach you for hours." "I was sleeping, Mom. It's 6 a.m. What happened to Dad?" "He had a heart attack at work yesterday. He's in intensive care. We need you here now." "Is he okay? What do the doctors say?" "Just get here. The whole family is coming. We need everyone together." I looked over at Sarah, who was already getting Marcus ready for the day. Amanda had left fresh towels outside our door and a pot of coffee brewing downstairs. These people who barely knew us had given us everything. "I'll be there as soon as I can," I told my mom. But as I hung up, something bitter settled in my stomach. Now they needed me. Now it was a family emergency that required everyone to drop everything and come running. When we were homeless with a baby, sleeping in a hotel, scraping together money for basic necessities, that wasn't an emergency. That was just an inconvenience they could ignore. I drove to the hospital in the clothes Amanda had bought for me at Target, the only decent outfit I owned since the fire. Sarah stayed behind with Marcus because Amanda had a work presentation and couldn't watch him. The ICU waiting room was packed with family members. Jessica was there with her husband, crying and hugging everyone. Mike sat in the corner looking shaken. Uncle Tommy was holding my mom's hand while she sobbed. Cousin Rachel was pacing near the vending machines. Aunt Linda was coordinating with nurses about visiting schedules. They all looked up when I walked in, and for a moment, I felt that old familiar pull. The instinct to step up, take charge, be the reliable one who holds everyone together. "How is he?" I asked. "Touch and go," my mom said, reaching for me. "The doctor said the next 24 hours are critical. I'm so glad you're here. I need my whole family around me right now." Her whole family. The irony wasn't lost on me. Jessica grabbed my arm. "I've been trying to coordinate everything," she said. "Getting people hotels, organizing meal trains, making sure Mom has everything she needs. It's so overwhelming." I stared at her. "You've been organizing hotels for people?" "Well, yeah. Family comes first, right? We all have to stick together in times like this." The words hit me like a physical blow. Family comes first. Stick together in times like this. Where was this energy 3 weeks ago when my house burned down? The waiting room went quiet. Jessica blinked at me like she didn't understand the question. "What do you mean?" "I mean, when my family was homeless, sleeping in hotels we couldn't afford, you posted kitchen renovation photos. When we needed help, everyone was too busy. But now that Dad's sick, suddenly everyone can drop everything and come running." Mike stood up from his corner. "That's different, man. Dad could die. And my 6-month-old son could have died in a house fire, but that wasn't urgent enough for any of you to offer help." Uncle Tommy cleared his throat. "Now wait a minute." "No, you wait," I said, feeling years of suppressed frustration boiling over. "I've been the go-to person for this family for 15 years. Every crisis, every emergency, every time someone needed money or help or support, I was there. But when I needed you, when Sarah needed you, when Marcus needed you, we were on our own." My mom looked stricken. "Honey, we wanted to help, but..." "But what? You didn't have space in your 4-bedroom house? Uncle Tommy was too cash poor, even though I loaned him $3,000 6 months ago? Mike couldn't risk losing sleep over a crying baby, but he can take time off work to sit in the hospital? This is different," Jessica said weakly. "This is Dad. This is always different when it's what you need," I replied. "But when I needed you, when Sarah needed you, when Marcus needed you, we were on our own." Aunt Linda stepped forward. "You have to understand, we all have our own situations." "I understand perfectly. I cut her off. I understand that I drove you to 47 medical appointments when you had cancer, and you couldn't offer a place to stay when my house burned down because you were worried about germs. I understand that family emergencies only count when they happen to you. The room was silent, except for the hum of vending machines and distant hospital sounds. Rachel finally spoke up. We didn't realize how bad things were for you. I sent a message saying our house burned down and we lost everything. How much clearer could I have been? We thought you had insurance, Mike said. Insurance doesn't kick in immediately. Insurance doesn't give you a place to sleep the night your house burns down. Insurance doesn't help when you're standing on the sidewalk in your pajamas holding your baby while everything you own turns to ash. My mom was crying now. We should have done more. I know that. But we're family. We stick together. I need you to help coordinate care for your father when he gets out of the hospital. You're so good at organizing things. There it was. The expectation that I would step up, take charge, solve their problems. Just like always. I'll do what I can, I said carefully. But as I drove back to Amanda's house, the house where people who barely knew me had given me more love and support than my own family, I made a decision. I would visit Dad in the hospital. I would check on his recovery. But I wouldn't be their coordinator, their problem solver, their emergency contact for every crisis that came after this. They'd shown me who they were when I needed them most. Now I was going to show them who I was when they needed me. I stayed at the hospital for 2 hours, long enough to talk to the doctors and confirm that Dad was stable. The heart attack was serious but survivable. He'd need surgery and a long recovery, but he wasn't going to die. The doctors explained the treatment plan, the risks, the timeline for recovery. I took notes out of habit, then realized I was falling back into my old role as the family coordinator. I stopped writing and just listened. Before I left, my mom pulled me aside. I know you're upset, she said, but we're family. We stick together. I need you to help coordinate care for your father when he gets out of the hospital. You're so good at organizing things. I heard you the first time, I said. So you'll help? I looked at her standing there, expecting me to say yes like I always did, expecting me to drop everything and fix their problems like I always had. We'll see, I said. What does that mean? It means I'll visit Dad and make sure he's okay, but I'm not going to be your coordinator or your problem solver. You'll have to figure out how to take care of your own husband. Her face went pale. I don't understand. You've always been so reliable. I was reliable when you needed me. You weren't reliable when I needed you. I'm just following your example. I left her standing in the hospital hallway and drove home to Amanda's house, the place that felt more like home after 3 weeks than my childhood house ever had. Over the next few days, the family group chat exploded with activity. Suddenly, everyone was very engaged, very responsive, very concerned about coordination and communication. They set up meal trains and visiting schedules and ride shares to the hospital. Jessica created a spreadsheet for Dad's medications. Mike organized a rotation for overnight stays. Uncle Tommy started a fund to help with medical expenses. Rachel coordinated with Dad's employer about leave policies. I watched it all from the outside, marveling at how quickly they could mobilize when it mattered to them. All the organizational skills they claimed not to have, all the time and energy they said they didn't possess, it was all there when they needed it for themselves. Jessica texted me privately. Can you take the Tuesday and Thursday hospital visits? You're so much better at talking to doctors than the rest of us. I didn't respond. Mike called. Hey, I was thinking we should set up a rotation to stay overnight with Dad. You've always been good in crisis situations. I let it go to voicemail. My mom left increasingly frantic messages. Why aren't you answering? We need to coordinate his care. You're usually so reliable. Usually so reliable. The family cleanup crew, the one who fixed problems and absorbed stress and made sure everyone else was okay. Sarah found me sitting on Amanda's back porch that evening, staring at my phone. They want something, she said. It wasn't a question. They want me to coordinate Dad's care, manage his recovery, be the point person for the family. What are you going to do? I looked at my phone, at all the missed calls and unread messages. Then I looked through the window at Marcus, sleeping peacefully in the crib Amanda had set up for us, in the house where we'd been given sanctuary by someone who owed us nothing. I'm going to do exactly what they did when we needed help. I said, nothing. I turned off my phone and went inside. The next morning, I drafted a message to the family group chat. I hope Dad recovers fully. I'll visit when I can. But I won't be coordinating his care or organizing family logistics. You'll need to figure that out among yourselves, just like Sarah, Marcus, and I had to figure out how to survive when our house burned down and nobody offered help. Good luck. I sent it before I could second guess myself, then immediately left the group chat. Within an hour, my phone was buzzing with individual messages and calls. I ignored all of them. The messages were predictable. Some angry, some pleading, some trying to guilt me into changing my mind. Jessica, I can't believe you're abandoning us during the worst time in our family's history. Dad always said family comes first. This isn't what he would want. You're being selfish. This isn't about you anymore. Aunt Linda, your father needs you. How can you turn your back on family? My mom, I don't understand what's happened to you. You used to care about this family. I did care. That was the problem. I'd cared so much for so long that I'd lost myself in their crises and emergencies and constant needs. I'd been so busy being their safety net that I'd forgotten what it felt like to have one for myself. 3 days later, Jessica showed up at Amanda's house. I saw her through the window, standing on the porch in her designer workout clothes, holding a Starbucks cup. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. We need to talk, she said. No, we don't. Dad's asking for you. Mom's falling apart. The family's a mess. The family's been a mess for years, I said. I just stopped cleaning it up. She tried a different approach. Look, I know we could have done better when your house burned down. Could have done better. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Jessica, you posted kitchen renovation photos while your nephew was homeless. You didn't do better. You didn't do anything at all. I was dealing with my own stuff, she said defensively. We're all dealing with our own stuff. The difference is, when you needed help with your divorce 3 years ago, I drove to your house at midnight and helped you pack. When Mike needed a job, I made phone calls and pulled strings. When Uncle Tommy needed money, I emptied my savings account. But when I needed help, everyone was too busy. Her face flushed. So this is revenge? You're punishing the whole family because your feelings got hurt? My feelings didn't get hurt, Jessica. My house burned down and my family abandoned me. There's a difference. We didn't abandon you. What would you call it? She didn't have an answer for that. Dad needs surgery next week, she said finally. Someone has to coordinate with the doctors, manage his medications, set up care when he comes home. You're the most organized person in the family. Then you'll figure it out. Just like I figured out how to replace everything I owned with no help from any of you. I started to close the door, but she put her hand against it. What do you want from us? She asked. An apology? Money? What would it take to fix this? I looked at her standing there in her $200 workout clothes, holding her $6 coffee, living in her renovated house, completely clueless about what she was asking. You can't fix this, Jess. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. You all showed me who you were when I needed you most. Now I'm showing you who I am when you need me most. I closed the door and locked it. Through the window, I watched her stand there for a few minutes, probably expecting me to change my mind and open the door again. When I didn't, she finally walked back to her car. That night, I sat down with Sarah and Amanda and made a decision that had been building for weeks. I want to move, I said, somewhere far away. Start over. Sarah took my hand. Where? I don't know yet. Somewhere we can build a real life. Somewhere we can raise Marcus around people who actually show up when it matters. Amanda smiled sadly. You know you're always welcome to stay here as long as you need. I know, I said, and that means everything, but I think it's time to build something new. Over the next month, while my family dealt with Dad's surgery and recovery without me, I researched job opportunities in other states. Sarah found a position with her company's Seattle office. I landed interviews with 3 firms in the Pacific Northwest. We didn't tell anyone we were leaving. We just quietly made our plans. Dad's surgery went well. I visited him once, briefly, when I knew no one else would be there. He looked small and tired in his hospital bed, but his color was good and he was alert. I heard you're not talking to the family, he said. I'm talking to you right now. You know what I mean. I pulled up a chair beside his bed. Dad, do you remember when I was 8 and you taught me to ride a bike? He nodded, confused by the change of subject. You held onto the back of the seat and ran alongside me until I got my balance. Then you let go, but you didn't disappear. You stayed close in case I fell. That's what family is supposed to do. They let you try on your own, but they stay close in case you need them. I leaned forward. When our house burned down, everyone disappeared. They didn't just let go. They walked away entirely. And now that you need help, they expect me to come running back like nothing happened. Family forgives, he said quietly. Family shows up, I replied. And when they don't, there are consequences. I stood up to leave. Will I see you again? He asked. I don't know, I said honestly. That depends on whether you understand why I'm not the same person I was before the fire. His eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry we let you down. It was the first real apology I'd gotten from anyone in the family. It meant something, but it didn't change anything. I know you are. If I said, but sorry doesn't give me back the weeks I spent in hotels with my infant son while you all went about your normal lives. 2 weeks later, Sarah, Marcus, and I loaded our belongings, what little we had, into a rented truck. Amanda cried when we hugged goodbye. We promised to stay in touch, and I meant it. She'd shown me what family could look like when it wasn't tied to blood relations or history or obligation. As we drove out of town, I got a text from my mom. Jessica told me you're leaving. Is this really what you want? I pulled over and typed back. When our house burned down, you all made a choice about what kind of family we were. I'm just living with the consequences of that choice." She didn't respond. The drive to Seattle took 3 days. Marcus was a good traveler, sleeping through most of the long stretches and only getting fussy when he was hungry or needed a diaper change. Sarah and I took turns driving, stopping at scenic overlooks and small towns along the way. It felt like a pilgrimage. We were leaving behind everything we'd known, everyone we'd grown up with, all the familiar landmarks and routines that had defined our lives. But we weren't running away. We were running towards something better. We've been in Seattle for 8 months now. Marcus is walking and laughing and thriving. Sarah loves her new job. I found work with a firm that actually values work-life balance. We live in a small apartment with neighbors who smile and wave, who offer to watch Marcus when we need to run errands, who brought us soup when we all got sick with a stomach bug. Our building has a community garden where Marcus likes to pick tomatoes and chase butterflies. We have season tickets to the Seattle Children's Theater. We volunteer at the food bank on weekends. Sometimes I get messages from family members. Birthday wishes, photos of holidays I'm not part of anymore, updates about Dad's recovery. I don't respond to most of them, but I don't block them either. I just let them exist in my peripheral vision like background noise. Last month, Jessica sent a long email. She'd been in therapy, she said. She was starting to understand how badly they'd handled things after the fire. She wanted to make amends, to rebuild our relationship, to be part of Marcus's life. I read it twice, then deleted it. Not because I was angry anymore. The sharp edge of that anger had worn down to something more like acceptance. But because I've learned the difference between people who say they want to change and people who actually do the work to change. If Jessica really wanted to make amends, she'd start by showing up for other people who needed help. She'd volunteer at a homeless shelter, or donate to disaster relief, or find ways to be useful to people who couldn't pay her back. She'd prove through actions, not words, that she understood what went wrong. But that would require her to admit that what went wrong wasn't just a misunderstanding or a failure to communicate. It was a fundamental difference in values, in priorities, in what we thought family meant. I've built a new definition of family now. It includes Amanda, who still calls every few weeks to check on Marcus. It includes our neighbors who bring their kids to play with him at the community playground. It includes Sarah's coworkers who invited us to their barbecues and holiday parties without expecting anything in return. It includes people who show up not because they have to, but because they want to. And it doesn't include people who only remember you exist when they need something from you. 2 weeks ago, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Is this David?" The voice was unfamiliar. "Yes. This is Margaret Chen. I work with the Red Cross Disaster Relief Program. Amanda Williams gave me your number." My heart skipped. "Is Amanda okay?" "Oh yes, she's fine. She's actually one of our volunteers now. She mentioned that you and your family went through a house fire last year, and I was wondering if you'd be willing to share your experience with some families we're helping right now, just to let them know they're not alone." I looked out the window at Marcus playing in our small yard, at Sarah reading on the porch of our new home, at the life we built from nothing with the help of people who had no obligation to care about us. "Yes," I said, "I'd like that." Because that's what family does. Real family. They show up for people who need help, even when those people are strangers. They break the cycle of abandonment instead of perpetuating it. They choose love over convenience, compassion over comfort, presence over absence. And when they do, miraculous things happen. Houses get rebuilt, lives get reconstructed, trust gets restored. Just not always with the people who broke it in the first place. Sometimes the family you need isn't the family you were born with. Sometimes it's the family you choose, and sometimes that makes all the difference in the world. Update: 6 months later. A lot of people have asked what happened with my biological family, so I wanted to provide an update. My father recovered fully from his heart surgery. I'm glad about that. I never wanted anything bad to happen to him. According to mutual friends, the family eventually figured out how to coordinate his care without me. Apparently, it was really hard, and they didn't realize how much work I used to do behind the scenes. I'm sure it was hard. Most worthwhile things are. The insurance claim from our house fire finally settled about 4 months after we moved to Seattle. It wasn't enough to replace everything we'd lost, but it was enough to put a down payment on a small house in a neighborhood with good schools. Marcus has his own room now, painted yellow with glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. Jessica has reached out 3 more times. The messages have gotten more desperate as she's realized I'm not coming back. The last one accused me of destroying the family and teaching Marcus to hate his relatives. I didn't respond to that one either, but I did screenshot it. It perfectly captured why I left. Even when apologizing, she couldn't take responsibility for her actions. It was still somehow my fault for having consequences. Mike sent a friend request on Facebook. I declined it. He sent another one 6 months later with a message. Can't we just move on? I blocked him after that. Some people think moving on means pretending bad things never happened instead of actually addressing them. Uncle Tommy actually paid back the $3,000 he owed me. He sent a cashier's check with no note, no explanation. I deposited it into Marcus's college fund. Money can't buy back trust, but at least it can buy my son's education. My mom sends cards on holidays. I don't throw them away, but I don't display them either. They go in a box in the closet. Maybe someday Marcus will want to read them. Maybe not. The cards are always generic, thinking of you or missing our grandson, but never acknowledge what actually happened or why we're not in touch. The most surprising development was my cousin Rachel. About a year after we moved, she called me directly. I owe you an apology, she said without preamble. Okay, not the bullshit kind where I make excuses. A real one. I was selfish when your house burned down. I was so wrapped up in my own problems that I couldn't see past them to help family who needed me. You helped me through my divorce, and when you needed help, I wasn't there. That was wrong. I waited for the but that usually came after these kinds of statements. It didn't come. I've been in therapy for 6 months, she continued, working on why I only think about other people when it's convenient for me. I'm not asking for forgiveness or for you to come back or anything like that. I just wanted you to know that I know I screwed up. I appreciate that, I said. How's Marcus? He's good. Walking, talking, being 2 years old. I'd like to send him something for his birthday if that's okay. Not because I think it'll fix anything, but because he's my cousin and I love him, even though I did a terrible job showing it. I thought about it. You can send it to Amanda's address. She'll forward it. Thank you. She did send something. A handmade wooden puzzle with Marcus's name carved into it. No note asking for photos or thank you cards. No expectation of reconciliation. Just a gift from someone who understood that the relationship might be broken, but still wanted to do one small thing right. It's sitting on Marcus's toy shelf now. He likes the way the pieces fit together. As for us, we're thriving. Sarah got promoted to senior analyst and now leads a team of 5 people. I started my own consulting firm specializing in disaster recovery planning for small businesses. The irony isn't lost on me. I help other people prepare for crises because I know what it's like when your safety net disappears. Marcus is bilingual now. He learned Spanish from our neighbor Mrs. Rodriguez, who watches him sometimes when we both have to travel for work. He calls her abuela, and she spoils him with homemade cookies and stories about her childhood in Mexico. We have season tickets to the Seattle Children's Theater. Marcus loves the puppet shows and musical performances. He claps and laughs and sometimes tries to sing along. These are the memories I want him to have of childhood. Joy, wonder, being surrounded by people who delight in his happiness. We volunteer at the food bank on weekends. Marcus is too young to help much, but he likes to stack cans and hand out bags to families. I want him to grow up understanding that helping others isn't something you do for credit or recognition. It's just what good people do. Last weekend, we went to Amanda's wedding. She flew us back to our old town as part of the wedding party. Sarah was a bridesmaid. I gave a reading during the ceremony, a poem about chosen family and the love that grows from unexpected places. Marcus was the ring bearer and only dropped the rings once, which everyone agreed was a success. At the reception, Amanda's new husband thanked me in his speech for bringing the most important person in his life into our circle of friends. Apparently, he and Amanda met at a disaster relief volunteer training that she joined after helping us. Our crisis had rippled outward in ways we never expected, creating connections and communities and love stories we couldn't have imagined. During the reception, I overheard 2 of Amanda's relatives talking about our story. One of them said, "I can't believe his family didn't help. When my sister's apartment flooded, we had her whole family moved in with relatives within hours." That's when it hit me. What my family did wasn't normal. It wasn't acceptable. It wasn't just a matter of different perspectives or communication styles. It was a fundamental failure of basic human decency. Good families don't debate whether to help when someone's house burns down. They don't make excuses or calculate costs or worry about inconvenience. They just show up. The fact that I'd spent years normalizing their selfishness, making excuses for their absence, convincing myself that I was asking too much, that was the real tragedy. I'd been so trained to expect nothing that I thought their abandonment was somehow my fault. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if my family had shown up that first week after the fire. If they'd offered help instead of indifference, shelter instead of silence. Would we still be living in our old town, still caught in the same patterns of one-sided obligation and unreciprocated support? I think we would be. And while I wouldn't wish a house fire on anyone, I'm grateful for what grew from the ashes. We learned that we were stronger than we thought, that we could build something beautiful from nothing. That love isn't about blood or history. It's about presence and choice and showing up when it matters most. And we learned that sometimes the best thing that can happen to a family is for it to fall apart completely, so the people who really belong together can find each other in the rubble and build something better. Marcus won't remember the fire or the hotel or the months we spent displaced. His first memories will be of the community that caught us when we fell, the neighbors who became family, the love that chose us back when we chose it. That's the inheritance I want to give him. Not the dysfunction and conditional love of my biological family, but the knowledge that real family, the kind worth keeping, shows up. They stay. They help without being asked and give without expecting return. They're the people who see you at your worst moment and think, what can I do? Instead of what's in it for me. Those people exist. They're everywhere, actually. You just have to stop wasting time with people who aren't them to make room for the ones who are. And once you do, you'll wonder why you waited so long to let them in. About a month ago, something unexpected happened. I was at the grocery store with Marcus when I ran into Mrs. Patterson, my old next-door neighbor from before the fire. She recognized me immediately and rushed over. "David, oh my goodness, how are you? How's the baby?" I introduced her to Marcus, who was now a chatty toddler, more interested in the colorful cereal boxes than adult conversation. "I heard about what happened with your family," she said quietly. "Word gets around in small towns, you know." I tensed, expecting judgment or unwanted advice about forgiveness and moving on. "I just wanted you to know," she continued, "that most people think your family was wrong. Really wrong. When the Hendersons' house flooded 2 years ago, the whole neighborhood pitched in. We had them housed and clothed and fed within hours. That's what communities do for each other." She paused, watching Marcus try to reach a box of graham crackers on a high shelf. "Your family's behavior wasn't normal, David. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." It was validating to hear, but it also made me sad. Sad for the teenager I'd been, learning to expect so little from the people who were supposed to love me most. Sad for all the years I'd spent making excuses for people who didn't deserve them. But mostly, I felt grateful. Grateful that I'd finally learned the difference between family that lifts you up and family that holds you back. Grateful that Marcus would grow up knowing what real support looked like. Update. 2 years later, I'm writing this update from our new house, a 3-bedroom craftsman with a big backyard where Marcus can run around and play. We closed on it last month, using the insurance settlement and savings we built up over 2 years of actual financial stability. Marcus is 3 now, full of questions and energy and opinions about everything. He speaks English and Spanish fluently and is starting to pick up some Mandarin from his daycare teacher, Miss Lynn. He calls Amanda Aunt Mandy and lights up whenever she FaceTimes us from across the country. Sarah and I just celebrated our 7th wedding anniversary. We went to a nice restaurant while Mrs. Rodriguez watched Marcus, and we talked about how different our lives are now compared to those desperate weeks after the fire. We're happier, more secure, more confident in our ability to handle whatever life throws at us. My consulting business has grown beyond what I ever imagined. I now work with companies across the West Coast, helping them prepare for disasters and crises. I speak at conferences about resilience and recovery. The expertise I gained from living through our own disaster has become my livelihood. Last week, I got a call that brought everything full circle. It was from the Red Cross, asking if I'd be willing to help coordinate relief efforts for families displaced by a wildfire in Northern California. Of course, I said yes. I spent 3 days in an evacuation center helping families navigate insurance claims, find temporary housing, and access resources they needed. I saw the shell-shocked look I remembered from my own mirror 2 years ago. I saw parents holding babies and wondering how they'd replace everything they'd lost. But I also saw something beautiful. I saw communities rallying around strangers. I saw volunteers working 18-hour days to help people they'd never met. I saw churches and schools and businesses opening their doors without hesitation. I saw what family is supposed to look like. One evening, a young father approached me. His house had burned completely, and he was struggling to navigate the maze of insurance paperwork while caring for his pregnant wife and 2-year-old daughter. "I don't know how to do this," he said, tears in his eyes. "We lost everything. Our families live on the East Coast, and they keep saying they wish they could help, but can't afford to travel. I feel so alone." I sat with him for an hour, walking through the insurance process step by step. I gave him my business card and told him to call if he had questions. I connected him with local resources for temporary housing and childcare. Before I left, he grabbed my hand. "Thank you for seeing us," he said. "Thank you for caring about people you don't even know." That's when I understood why everything had happened the way it did. The fire, the abandonment, the long journey to rebuilding. It had all led to this moment, to my ability to help others who were walking the same dark path I'd walked. I couldn't change what my family had done to me, but I could make sure other people didn't face their worst moments alone. On the drive home from the evacuation center, I got a text from an unknown number. It was a photo of a little girl in a hospital bed, surrounded by medical equipment. The message said, This is my daughter Emma. She was born premature at 28 weeks. We've been in the NICU for 3 months. I read your Reddit post about your family not showing up, and I wanted you to know your story gave me strength to set boundaries with people who weren't supporting us either. Thank you for sharing. I pulled over and stared at the photo for a long time. This stranger felt connected to our story, found strength in our journey, was making better choices because of what we'd shared. That's the real power of walking away from people who don't value you. It's not just about protecting yourself. It's about modeling healthy relationships for others who are still trapped in unhealthy ones. I texted back, "Give Emma a kiss from Uncle David in Seattle. You're stronger than you know, and you're doing everything right." The cycle was breaking. One family at a time, one boundary at a time, one person at a time, learning that they deserve better than conditional love and fair weather support. As for my biological family, they've mostly faded into background noise. Dad sends a birthday card to Marcus every year. Mom occasionally likes photos I post on social media, though she never comments. Jessica got divorced last year, and according to mutual friends, struggled to find people willing to help her through it. Apparently, when you don't show up for others, they don't show up for you either. I don't take satisfaction in their struggles, but I don't feel obligated to solve them either. I've learned that loving someone doesn't mean enabling their dysfunction, and family loyalty doesn't mean accepting treatment you wouldn't tolerate from strangers. The person who surprised me most was my dad. About 6 months ago, he called directly instead of going through Mom like he usually did. "I've been thinking about what you said in the hospital," he told me, "about family showing up." "Okay." I realized I taught you to be the person who always shows up, but I never taught the rest of them. I let you carry too much for too long, and when you needed us to carry you for once, we didn't know how. It was the closest thing to accountability I'd ever heard from him. "I'm proud of the life you've built," he continued, "proud of the man you've become. I know we don't deserve to be part of it, but I wanted you to know that I see what we lost when we lost you." We talked for another few minutes about Marcus, about Seattle, about my work. It wasn't a reconciliation, but it wasn't angry either. It was just honest. "Maybe someday," he said before hanging up, "when you're ready, we can try to do better." Maybe, I agreed, but I didn't make any promises, because I've learned that people can acknowledge their mistakes without changing their behavior. That understanding what went wrong doesn't automatically fix anything. That real change requires sustained effort over time, not just one good conversation. If my family wants to be part of our lives again, they'll have to prove they've actually changed, not with words, but with actions. Not just toward us, but toward others who need help. They'll have to show that they've learned what family really means. Until then, Marcus and I will keep building the life we've chosen. We'll keep showing up for people who need us, accepting help from people who offer it freely, and surrounding ourselves with love that doesn't come with conditions or expiration dates. We'll keep proving that sometimes the best thing you can do for the people you love is refuse to accept less than you deserve. And we'll keep trusting that real family, the kind that shows up, stays present, and chooses love over convenience, will always find its way to you if you're brave enough to make room for it. That's the story I want Marcus to know about his childhood. Not that his biological family failed him, but that his chosen family caught him. Not that love is scarce and conditional, but that it's abundant and freely given when you know where to look for it. And that sometimes, when everything burns down, what grows from the ashes is more beautiful than what was lost. Top comment. This hit me right in the feelings. "I'm so sorry your family failed you, but so glad you found your real family. Marcus is lucky to have parents who know the difference between people who say they love you and people who actually do." OP's reply, "Thank you. It took a literal fire to burn away the illusions I had about what family meant, but I'm grateful for the clarity now. The hard part wasn't losing the people who didn't show up. It was accepting that I've been carrying relationships that were never reciprocal to begin with. But once I stopped carrying them, I had room for relationships that actually fed my soul instead of draining it." Second top comment. "I'm currently staying with my sister after my apartment was destroyed in a flood, and reading this made me appreciate her so much more. She didn't hesitate for a second to clear out her guest room and tell me to stay as long as I needed. That's what family does." OP's reply, "Exactly. Real family doesn't calculate costs or worry about inconvenience when someone they love is in crisis. They just show up. Give your sister an extra hug from an internet stranger who knows how precious that kind of love is." Third top comment. The part about Amanda really got to me. Sometimes the most important people in our lives are the ones who had no obligation to care about us, but chose to anyway. OP's reply. "Amanda taught me that love is a choice, not an obligation. She chose to help us when she could have easily minded her own business. That's infinitely more valuable than people who are supposed to love you, but can't be bothered to show up when it matters. She'll always be family to us, no matter how far apart we live."